A well-known novelist named Michael is struggling to finish his new novel as his mind is heavy with burdens. His son Robbie recently passed away in a tragic drowning accident, and Michael fled to Paris to escape and focus on his writing. Meanwhile, his wife named Elaine is standing at the edge of a pool, attempting to face her fear as she remembers how their son died from drowning there. However, she was not able to conquer it this time as she wrapped herself in a robe and heads back inside. After changing her clothes, she gets into a conversation that quickly turns tense. Frustrated, she thoughtlessly tosses her phone toward the sink, but it ends up falling into a pan full of water. When she sees her son's face on the screen just as it goes black, her irritation deepens. On the other hand, a woman named Julia appears to be running late for work. As she's about to leave, she walks past her son's empty bedroom. Julia deeply misses her son, but she promises herself that they'll be together soon. She dashes across the bustling streets of New York and finally reaches her lawyer named Teresa. Julia rattles off a series of rushed apologies, but Teresa cuts her off as she is too familiar with Julia's excuses about how she's doing her best to get her chaotic life back on track. Teresa informs her that the judge has permitted a second psychiatric evaluation. Julia is locked in a custody battle over her son due to an unfortunate incident. She insists it was an accident and that she was only trying to save her son's life. However, Teresa stresses that Julia has only one chance to prove her mental stability, and it hinges on this evaluation. Julia's son is currently staying with his father Rick, whom he seems to have a strained relationship with. He tries to involve the boy in his art, but his son doesn't show much interest and instead wipes his painted hands on a canvas, which irritates the father. Meanwhile, Rick's current girlfriend Sam is more in tune with the boy's mood. She gently cleans his hands and even manages to coax a smile out of him. The third key character in this story is Scott, an American businessman involved in some shady dealings in Rome by stealing designs from luxury fashion brands to pass along to his associates. He walks into a bar and orders a drink but receives unfriendly service from the bartender. Soon, a woman enters and Scott can't help but notice her striking appearance. She's carrying several bags, and Scott knows he should keep his distance, but he doesn't see the harm in admiring her from afar. Meanwhile, Michael is still struggling with his writing when he gets a call from the hotel receptionist, telling him that a woman named Anna is looking for him. He instructs them to send her up to his room, and a few minutes later, Anna appears. She hands him her short story, asking for his feedback. Though they act indifferent towards each other, there's a noticeable undercurrent of tension between them. They playfully tease each other, until Michael swiftly lifts her onto his shoulders and tosses her onto the bed. Without wasting time, they share an intense and passionate moment. Anna is Michael's lover, a driven journalist with aspirations of becoming a writer. She sees her relationship with Michael as a stepping stone towards her ambitions, but she is a bit moody and often throws snide remarks at him. After their intimate encounter, Anna reads through Michael's journal when a message pops up on her phone. It's from a man named Daniel, who says he'll be arriving in Paris and needs to see her. Anna ignores the message and continues reading. When Michael finishes his shower, he surprises Anna with a gift, an elegant red dress. Though Anna is thrilled with the gift, she masks her excitement and offers a simple thank you without much emotion. They head out for a stroll along the streets of Paris, where Anna pushes Michael about when he's going to review her short story. The writer just chuckles and brushes off the question. Anna asks him about the novel he's working on, and Michael says he will soon get feedback from his publisher, but he's unsure if it's any good. Anna reminds him that he's an award-winning writer, so there's no way his writing could be terrible. As they continue their walk, they spend the time lightheartedly bantering like any ordinary couple. When they return to the hotel, Michael is caught off guard when Anna reveals she won't be staying in his suite as she's booked her own room. He doesn't take the news well, and Anna is annoyed, saying that people are already gossiping about them, and she needs to protect her reputation. Michael reluctantly apologizes, but Anna just sighs in frustration. Back in New York, Julia is rushing to work as she's worried about losing yet another job. Upon arriving, the supervisor asks if she's sure that she wants this job, and Julia says that she desperately needs it to pay her bills. The supervisor sympathizes with her and suggests a position at the reception since she's very attractive anyways. However, Julia chooses to work as a hotel maid so she can work unnoticed. Julia used to be an actress, but when she became pregnant, she left the spotlight to focus on her child. Unfortunately, due to the circumstances of her custody battle with Rick, she lost her financial stability. After her shift, Julia spends a few moments gazing up at Rick's apartment, wishing she could see her son. For now, all she can do is watch from a distance and hope for the day she wins him back. Meanwhile in Rome, Scott continues to observe the mysterious woman. After a few minutes, the woman confronts him, introducing herself as Monica. She demands to know why he keeps staring at her, and Scott smoothly replies that he was just curious about what she was drinking. Monica is skeptical but finds his subtle approach rather charming. Scott then apologizes for staring, and Monica realizes that he seems safer than most men she's encountered. Scott checks his phone to listen to a recording, and though Monica doesn't say anything at first, her curious expression prompts Scott to share that he has a daughter. Monica then reveals that she also has an 8-year-old daughter, whom she will be seeing tomorrow for the first time in 2 years. Their calm moment is interrupted by the piercing ring of a phone, and Monica quickly moves to answer it. She later pulls a bill from an envelope stuffed with cash and scribbles what appears to be a phone number on it. After her call, Monica seems agitated, so she gathers her bags and heads out in a hurry. Scott is puzzled, and moments later, he realizes that Monica left behind one of her bags, the one containing the envelope full of cash. Scott picks up the bag and gives it to the bartender. That night, Scott can't stop thinking about Monica, so he decides to return to the bar. There, he finds Monica already in a heated argument with the bartender, demanding her money back. The bartender points at Scott, saying he's the one who found her bag and therefore has her money. Monica insists the money was with the bartender, but the bartender, feeling insulted, roughly grabs her and pushes her out. Scott later learns that the cash was meant for Monica's daughter. She explains that her daughter is being held hostage, and Monica needs to pay 5,000 euros to get her back. Scott offers to give her money, but Monica assumes he's only doing it so he can sleep with her. The guy corrects her, saying he doesn't see her that way. It's getting late, and with no other options, Monica agrees to go with Scott to his hotel. However, the receptionist takes one look at Monica and claims that there are no more rooms available for her. Feeling humiliated, Monica decides she'd rather sleep at the train station. To her surprise, Scott follows her, bringing all of his luggage with him. Scott reassures Monica that he isn't interested in anything physical and that he's genuinely trying to help her. Meanwhile, back in Paris, Michael attempts to get back to writing, but his thoughts keep drifting to Anna's absence. He tries calling her, but Anna stubbornly ignores his calls. To make matters worse, she receives another text from Daniel, letting her know he's arrived at his hotel. After some contemplation, Anna decides to visit Michael, wearing only a robe with nothing underneath. She playfully teases him until she eventually takes off the robe. Michael takes a moment to appreciate her before grabbing the robe and shutting the door in her face. Anna, delighted that Michael is bold enough to do this to her, dashes back to her room, giggling like a schoolgirl. Michael sits back down, ready to resume his writing, but his mind is now consumed with thoughts of Anna. He decides it's finally time to read her short story and make a review. Back in New York, Julia is cleaning one of the suites when she gets a call from her lawyer Teresa, who sounds annoyed because the psychiatrist who is scheduled to evaluate Julia made a last-minute change to their venue. Julia grabs a piece of paper and quickly jots down the address, but then she ends the call abruptly when the suite's occupant enters the room, startling her and causing her to knock an ashtray off the table. Flustered, Julia cleans up the mess quickly and mutters a quiet apology as she leaves, not realizing she left the paper with the psychiatrist's address behind. Meanwhile in Paris, Michael calls Anna to come to his suite as he is ready to give his feedback on her short story. He begins by telling her that her story is clever and well-crafted, but Anna makes a sarcastic comment in response. He advises her that she could have infused more of her personal touch into the story, but Anna makes another cutting remark about his critique. Their tense exchange is abruptly interrupted by a call from Michael's wife. Elaine calls Michael to tell him she's lost her phone, which had many photos of their late son, Robbie. She says that she has a new number, and Michael writes it down on a piece of paper, which looks suspiciously similar to the one Julia had used to write the psychiatrist's address. Elaine expresses how much she misses him, which makes Michael glance at Anna. He heads into the bedroom to continue his conversation with his wife, and it turns out that she is already aware of her husband's lover. Anna discreetly takes the paper with Elaine's new number and slips it into her pocket. Once Michael finishes his conversation, Anna approaches him and makes a harsh remark about his wife, and the frustrated Michael tells her to stop. He reveals that he left his wife weeks ago because he had fallen in love with someone else. Anna finds it ridiculous and says that she'll never return his feelings. After storming out, Anna retrieves the paper with Elaine's number and tries to call it, intending to confront her and spite Michael. However, she ends up dropping the call. Anna is seething with anger, not only because Michael won't even acknowledge her to his wife, but also because she feels jealous of the life he has shared with Elaine. Meanwhile, Michael heads out to meet his publisher named Jake. Jake starts by asking about Elaine and then about Anna, as it turns out that he is aware of Michael's secret affair. Jake then gets straight to the point and tells Michael that they won't be publishing his novel. The publisher says that while his first novel was exceptional, the quality of his subsequent books has declined. Back in Rome, Monica has managed to get a car. Scott hands her the money he promised, but he insists on holding onto it until he sees her give it to the people who are holding her daughter. Monica is furious that Scott won't leave her alone, so she speeds through the streets, nearly hitting the pedestrians, until they later reach a rundown area on the town's outskirts that feels unsafe. Despite the danger, Scott insists on coming with Monica, and there, they meet Carlo, a member of the Italian mafia. Carlo is impressed that Monica has managed to attract a wealthy American like Scott and sees this as an opportunity to con both of them. He claims Monica owes him 10,000 euros, and since Scott helped her, he now owes him 25,000 euros. Carlo says he won't show Monica's daughter without the money, so Scott takes back the envelope and leaves. Monica is furious and blames Scott for complicating things. She demands her money back, but Scott accuses her of trying to scam him. After he hands over the envelope, Monica quickly searches for the bill where she wrote down Carlo's number, proving that Scott took her money. She angrily drives off and leaves Scott behind. He manages to find a cheap hostel and spends the night alone in the dark, contemplating why he's so determined to help Monica. As a con artist himself, he wonders why he cares about what happens to her and her daughter. However, after listening to his daughter's recorded message one more time, Scott realizes he can't let another parent endure the pain of being separated from their child. Despite his suspicions that this could all be an elaborate scheme to exploit him, he knows he has to make his next move carefully. Back in New York, Julia is preparing to go to the psychiatrist's office. However, she discovers she's missing the piece of paper with the address. She searches frantically for it, but can't find it, and when she tries to call Teresa, she learns that she has run out of calls, so she heads to a store to buy a phone card. Eventually, she manages to call Teresa and explain her situation. Teresa, though still annoyed, urges Julia to hurry. However, the city traffic isn't on Julia's side. When she finally arrives at the office, she is 45 minutes late. The doctor tells her it's considered a no-show and adds that there's no need for her to be evaluated given the previous reports about her actions towards her son. Teresa expresses frustration and confronts Julia on being so irresponsible. She implies that Julia's chances of winning the battle are slim and that it would take a miracle for her to see her son again. Teresa leaves, and Julia is left in despair. Inside the women's bathroom, Julia breaks down as feels like she's done everything she can to fight for her son, yet everything seems to be working against her. She sobs uncontrollably, not noticing another woman in one of the bathroom stalls. It is Sam, her ex-husband's girlfriend. Sam decides to check on her, and Julia appreciates her kindness. Meanwhile in Rome, Scott finally decides to withdraw enough money to help Monica. He calls Carlo to arrange a meeting, and after a few hours, he walks into one of their hideouts. Monica is already there, as if she was informed about the meeting in advance. Scott hands over the money to Carlo, who looks amused and asks why he is helping Monica. Scott didn't answer and he instead asks for the lady's daughter. This sparks a brief altercation between the three, but then Carlo pulls out his gun and tells Scott that the payment has gone up to 100,000 euros, and if he doesn't pay up, Monica's daughter will end up on the streets. With no other options, Scott and Monica leave the place. Back in Paris, Anna receives a call from Michael, inviting her to breakfast. She declines, saying she's meeting a friend. Michael panics, fearing this friend might be someone he suspects. He rushes out of his room to catch Anna and pleads with her not to leave, but she responds with harsh words and humiliation, then sarcastically advises him to find someone who can give him the kind of love he desires. Anna arrives at the hotel to meet her friend, who turns out to be Daniel. But Daniel isn't just a friend, he is her father. Michael is aware of their immoral affair, that is why he is desperate to stop her. After a few hours, Anna gets dressed and leaves her father who is asleep. She heads back, looking disheveled and conflicted. Upon entering her room, she is taken aback by the sight of white roses. She knows immediately who could have done this and rushes to Michael's room. She asks him why he is showing her kindness when all she has ever given him is her worst side. While she is crying, Michael gently carries her to bed and calms her down. She eventually admits that she hates herself very much and has been projecting her self-hatred onto the one person who genuinely cares for her. She's never believed she deserved love, but finds it painful to realize that the love she needs is coming from the man she has belittled. Anna later receives a call from Daniel, asking her why she left him. Summoning her courage, Anna tells her father that she's with someone now and cannot return. Daniel tries to persuade her to come back, but Anna ends the call by asking for forgiveness and resolves to do what she believes is right. In Rome, Scott tracks down Monica to a dilapidated trailer. She strikes him with a pan while demanding to know why he's helping her, and Scott admits he's not sure himself. He asks why she left her bag in the bar, suggesting it was a setup to frame him. He reveals that he isn't as wealthy as she believes and makes a living by stealing fashion designs. Monica confesses that although she targeted him due to his appearance, paying Carlo is indeed the only way to retrieve her daughter. With their issues clarified, Scott and Monica focus on resolving the situation with Carlo. Scott invites Monica to his hotel for a more comfortable stay. As they discuss Scott's dubious profession, they can't ignore the attraction that has been building between them until they eventually give in to their desires and spend the night together. The following morning, Scott calls his associate to check his funds, deciding to fully commit to helping Monica. Meanwhile, Julia's emotional state worsens when she encounters dozens of vases filled with white roses in the same suite where she lost the crucial piece of paper. The contrast between the beauty of the flowers and her own turmoil feels painfully ironic. She later decides to visit Rick and their son, despite the court orders against it. Rick reluctantly allows her in, but Julia pleads to see her son and apologizes for cheating with him, which turns out to be the reason for their divorce. However, Rick remains resolute in denying her their child as he is weary of Julia's unwillingness to fully acknowledge her mistakes, particularly her neglect, which led to a tragic incident. Rick proposes a deal that if Julia confesses the truth about the incident, he might consider allowing her to see their son. Julia partially admits her fault at first, but then eventually breaks down and recounts the full story. Her son was pretending to be a ghost using dry cleaning bags, and Julia tried to stop him, but he wouldn't listen, so she shows him what would happen, and it almost suffocated the child. Rick thanks Julia for her honesty, but firmly states that he will never permit her to see their son again. As he escorts her to the door, Julia desperately fights against him. Sam recognizes Julia's desperate situation, so she restrains Rick and encourages the boy to run to his mother. As the boy reaches Julia, the elevator doors close, separating them from Rick. He frantically runs down the stairs, and by the time he reaches the ground floor, he sees Julia fleeing the building, while the boy remains in the elevator, clutching the stuffed toy Julia had given him. Later that night, the boy gives his father a glass of milk, and Rick learns from Sam that Julia had instructed their son to take care of him. Touched by this, Rick decides to honor Julia's request. He calls her to inform her that she can visit their son under supervision. However, the call goes to voicemail as Julia has already decided to leave town. Meanwhile, Scott, having withdrawn a significant amount of money, goes to meet with Carlo, who later arrives riding a yellow bike, the same bike he saw when he first met Monica. Realizing that he's likely being scammed, Scott confronts Monica, telling her that he knows the situation is a con. Despite this, he offers her the bag of money, giving her a choice. She can take the money and leave, or she can take it and go with him. Monica is taken aback by the sincerity in Scott's eyes. However, she still takes the bag and walks away. That night, Scott calls his wife, who turns out to be Julia's lawyer, Teresa. Their conversation is heavy with unresolved pain, and Scott, feeling shattered, asks Teresa how he can possibly forgive himself. Through the call, it is revealed that their daughter died from drowning, a tragedy Scott was partially responsible for. He had left her unattended to take a business call, an act of negligence that Teresa can't forgive him for. The call ends, leaving Scott in a state of profound despair. Acknowledging his role in the tragedy, Scott resolves to start anew, and even if Monica doesn't return to him, he decides to live his life seeking atonement. To his surprise, Monica knocks on his door the next day. She informs him that she has paid Carlo, but asks if he can still take her with him. Scott, having nothing left to lose, agrees, and together with Monica's daughter, they drive away, embarking on a new chapter of their lives. Back in Paris, while Anna is looking around, Michael receives a call from Elaine, who has just come from a swim in their pool, feeling more at peace after facing her fears. Having read the entire draft of Michael's novel, Elaine confronts him for using their real story, including his affair with Anna and the tragic death of their son. Elaine asks if he has already told his lover that he was writing about her immoral relationship with her father, and Michael says he did not, but she is now reading his journal. Elaine says that he must forgive himself for the death of their son, but then Michael reveals that the call he received was not business. He was on the phone with his lover while his son is drowning. Meanwhile, Anna seems to look horrified while reading Michael's journal, as she finds out that her lover just wrote her immoral secret. Michael ends the call abruptly, and as he chases after Anna through the crowd, she transforms into Monica and Julia, highlighting that she is just a fictional character just like them. It turns out that the three stories are not separate realities but are intricately connected through Michael's writing, and the only realities here are the death of his son and his failed relationship with his wife. Julia's story reflects Michael's feelings of guilt and denial, particularly around his son Robbie's death. Scott's story embodies his infidelity and the crumbling foundation of his relationships, as Scott's conman lifestyle and questionable morals reflect Michael's own dishonesty and lack of commitment. While Anna's story represents Michael's complicated emotions and perhaps his darkest aspects, as Anna's character is entangled in a toxic relationship with her father, paralleling Michael's issues with intimacy and love. The movie then ends back at the hotel room of Michael, who is still struggling to finish the story. Did you like our movie recap? Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. To be updated for new movie recaps, hit the notification bell.